You scroll through your phone and see it everywhere. Big groups, loud laughs, photos with 10 people tagged. And then you look at your own life, and it's quiet, maybe too quiet. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought creeps in that you'd never say out loud. Is something wrong with me? I want you to stop right there. Because that question, that painful, lonely 3 a.m. question, it deserves an honest answer. What if the people who walk alone aren't the broken ones? What if they're simply the ones the world hasn't learned how to understand yet? Because here's what I've noticed after paying close attention to people like this. They don't avoid crowds out of fear. They don't stay home because nobody invited them. They simply move through life on a different frequency, a quieter one, a deeper one. And often, the people who feel most alone carry the most powerful traits of all. Number 1, they don't need you to tell them they're enough. Think about how much energy most people spend every single day just trying to be liked, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, agreeing with opinions they don't believe in, shrinking themselves down just to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. These people don't do that. Not because they don't care about others, but because they've already done the hard, quiet, painful work of figuring out who they are. And once you know who you are, really know, you stop needing the world to confirm it. They don't show up to be accepted, they show up to be real. And if a room can hold that, they'll find peace outside of it. There's something heartbreaking about that, and something incredibly beautiful about it at the same time. Because most people will spend their entire lives performing for an audience, these people choose themselves instead. And that kind of quiet confidence, it doesn't make headlines, it doesn't get likes, but it changes everything about the way you live. Number 2, their mind is their closest friend. While the rest of the world is running from silence, filling every empty moment with noise, with scrolling, with anything to avoid being alone with their own thoughts, these people run toward it. Because solitude isn't something they survive, it's something they need. They journal at midnight when a feeling won't leave them alone. They take long walks without headphones, just listening to what's happening inside them. They sit with their own thoughts the way other people sit with their closest friends. And yes, sometimes that gets heavy. Because when you think deeply, you can't pretend. You can't just go through the motions. You can't just show up and talk about nothing and call it connection. You ache for something real. A conversation that actually goes somewhere. A moment where someone says something true. Something vulnerable. Something that makes you feel like you're not completely alone in how you experience the world. And in a world full of surface-level everything, that hunger can feel incredibly isolating. But here's the other side of it. When they do connect with someone, when they finally find a conversation that goes deep, it's the kind of thing neither person ever forgets. Because they don't give that away easily. And that makes it mean everything. Number 3, they've chosen peace over popularity. This one is hard to talk about, because it comes with real loss. At some point in their life, these people made a decision, not a dramatic one, not one that came with a speech or a clean ending, just a quiet, painful, necessary decision. I cannot keep doing this to myself. Maybe it was a friendship that only called when it needed something. Maybe it was a group that made them feel lonelier than being alone ever did. Maybe it was an environment so full of noise and chaos and negativity that they were slowly disappearing inside of it. So they walked away. And yes, it cost them people. Sometimes people they genuinely loved, people they still think about, people they still miss on certain days, but they had learned something that most of us only understand after we've already broken ourselves trying to prove otherwise. You cannot heal in the same place that hurt you, so they chose peace. Not because it was easy, not because it didn't hurt, but because they finally decided that their well-being was worth protecting, even if it meant being misunderstood, even if it meant being labeled cold, distant, or antisocial. They chose themselves, and that is one of the bravest, loneliest, most underrated things a person can ever do. Number 4, they feel everything, even when they say nothing. They walk into a room and most people see someone quiet, reserved, maybe even unfriendly. But what's actually happening inside them is the complete opposite of empty. They feel everything. The tension sitting underneath the laughter. The fake smiles that are working so hard to hold something back. The loneliness hiding inside the person who seems the most confident in the room. They notice things that other people walk right past, not because they're looking for it, but because they can't not see it. And carrying that kind of awareness is exhausting in ways that are almost impossible to explain to someone who doesn't feel the same way. Because it means you can't just show up anywhere and be fine. You can't just surround yourself with anyone and feel okay. Certain rooms drain you. Certain people leave you feeling like you've run a marathon just from sitting next to them for an hour. So they protect their energy, carefully, intentionally. Not because they don't want to connect, but because real connection, safe connection, is something they guard like something precious. Because to them, it is. Number 5. They're becoming someone their old world couldn't hold. This is the one I want you to really sit with. Some people lose friends because of things they've done wrong. Because of patterns they're not proud of. because they hurt people and relationships didn't survive it. But that's not what this is about. This is about the people who lose friendships simply because they grew. They started healing, really healing, from things they'd been carrying for years. They started setting standards for their own life that didn't exist before. They started becoming more honest, more self-aware, more themselves. And not everyone could come with them. Not because anyone was a villain. Not because anyone was terrible. But because some relationships are built on a version of you that no longer exists. And when you change, those connections naturally fall away. That grief is real. I want you to know that. Losing people you once loved, even when you chose it, even when you know in your heart it was right, it still hurts. It still leaves a space that doesn't fill overnight. But it isn't failure. It's proof that you're moving. That you're evolving. That you're brave enough to become someone new even when it costs you something. So if you're reading this and something in it felt familiar, if you've ever stared at your phone on a Friday night feeling completely invisible, if you've ever smiled through a conversation and felt utterly alone inside it, if you've ever wondered why connection always feels just slightly out of reach for you, I need you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not difficult or damaged or doing life wrong. You are someone who feels deeply in a world that often rewards feeling nothing. You are someone who thinks clearly in a world that is addicted to distraction. You are someone who has chosen their peace, even when it was painful, in a world that mistakes loneliness for weakness. And no, this doesn't mean you'll be alone forever. It doesn't mean you don't want people, because the truth is, you probably want real connection more than almost anyone around you. It just means you're not willing to betray yourself to get it. You're not willing to place your heart somewhere it won't be held carefully. And that's not something to be ashamed of. That's not loneliness. That's strength. That's someone who knows exactly who they are, and refuses to become less of themselves just to feel less alone.